So, I just finished watching the brand new season of Arcane. Well, the first 2/3 of it, because for some reason, Netflix is doing this weird rollout with these episodes where they're putting out the first 6, aka the first 2 acts, and then the last, 3 episodes later in the year. I don't know why they do this. Either drop the whole thing or do it weekly. Make up your mind, Netflix. I was a big fan of Arcane when it came out a few years ago. It was one of those shows that kind of came out of nowhere. I am not somebody who is a big League of Legends fan, so I didn't jump into the show as somebody who knew I was going to love it or really enjoy it at all. But I quickly hooked on to the incredible animation style and the really well-done story that centers on these two sisters that are kind of wrapped in this larger sort of fantasy-type plot about this, this world where there's this undercity and this society that lives there and this city above ground and these people that live there, and of course there's a natural conflict. And that first season was really brilliant. The way that it melded beautiful animation, great character story, and then overall like a good production when it comes to the music and how they incorporate a lot of the visuals and the fight scenes. It was just a very well put together first season of television. Now it's taken a very long time, but we finally have season 2, and I'm happy to say the first 6 episodes kind of pick up and deliver exactly what you hoped for after season 1's finale. Now I have to be honest, jumping into season 2, I had forgotten a lot about what had happened in season 1, and although the show doesn't do a phenomenal job of sort of recapping you, unless you watch the actual recap, I will say it does bring you back to those core 2 characters, the 2 main characters that really drive this show, and that is Vi and Jinx, these 2 sisters that have been through some shit, and Jinx being pretty much the center point of the whole show. This character that has such a tragic background and is so much more complex than just this kind of outwardly Harley Quinn type Joker sort of personality that she lets on. And that's what really makes these early episodes work. All the stuff going on with Jinx and the stuff going on with Vi and how they sort of come together and conflict and all of the larger stuff that's going on within this world around them. This show continues to be a masterclass in animation. I would even say better than the first season. There are some strikingly beautiful moments and sequences in this show where they just get super creative with the animation style. It's probably the most creative animation we have out there, akin to something like the Spider-Verse movies. It's very similar to those in the sense of how creative it gets and how it's not afraid to change its style at times to do something new and unique and surprise the audience. Also back this season is the incredible music. This show has such an awesome use of music in both original songs, but also pulling other songs around, including the new Linkin Park song that they have included in this thing, and they know how to use these songs in perfect moments to create tone and just make you feel like, I don't know, a weird nostalgia feeling towards this show. It feels like an early 2000s show, the way it incorporates the music. And that's something I really loved about last season, specifically that song with Sting that just really stood out. And of course the Imagine Dragons song, that's the intro. Just the music in this thing definitely shines bright and it adds a big element to the show. When it comes to all the world stuff and the side characters and the other things going on, that's where the show kind of loses me. I'm just not as invested in the larger plot of this universe at the moment. I'm not as invested in many of the other characters. What I am invested in is this sort of family plot that is at the center of this thing. These 2 characters that have been separated and torn apart and have gone down very different paths to get to where they are now. And when those 2 things come together and you get a lot of the moments that, of course, I won't spoil, especially in the second act, this thing really becomes extremely emotional and beautiful and just so powerful, which is what really worked about the last season. And the last season also had an incredible villain. A villain that is not in this season, as you know at the end of season 1 of that show, what had happened. And kind of the lack of that character, I think, is felt a bit here. There are antagonists in this season, right? There are bad guys and people to hate and dislike, but just they never rise to the occasion that the guy from the first season really rose to. And I think that's what really kind of fueled my lack of attention towards a lot of the other plots going on in this season outside of the main thing going on with Jinx and Vi and Jinx and the little girl that's been following her around and everything going on there, and as that develops. But the show is starting to get in the more interesting territory, and I think the larger world aspects will be better in those final 3 episodes. And of course I have to talk about the fight scenes. There are many in this season, I think more than even last season so far. There is a big one in the first act that I think is absolutely spectacular, extraordinarily creative, and kind of brutal. There's another gigantic one in the last episode that we have now. All of these fight sequences are great, well put together. There's one in particular that I like that's a little bit smaller, at least when it comes to scale, but it involves Jinx and Vi. I believe it's in the second or third to last episode where they are fighting this one thing, and it is just so remarkable and emotional, and it highlights what this show does best. It's with these characters. Overall, with these first 6 episodes, I've really enjoyed this show. I'm really looking forward to getting the last act. I believe this will be the last season. They're framing it as the last season, which it's only the second season, so it's really just kind of like an extended miniseries, I guess. But I really enjoy this, and I hope that more shows kind of take on this animation style in the future. Maybe we can get other video games outside of just the League of Legends stuff, but this show is still brilliantly done, and I'm happy to say that Season 2 did live up to the weight of Season 1, and we will see with the final 3 episodes if they can land this plane and give this series and this show sort of the finale and the characters the finale that it deserves. But for the first 6 episodes, I'll be giving Arcane Season 2 a 4 out of 5. Go check it out right now. Check out Season 1 if you haven't watched that as well. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more notifications. I'll see you in the next one.